AI-generated image, and you're probably aware that algorithms are biased in some way. But all the evidence is suggesting that we're pretty bad at understanding that on a subconscious level. Take, for example, the growing perception gap in America. We keep over and overestimating how extreme other people's political beliefs are, and this is only getting worse with social media because algorithms show us the most extreme picture of reality. As an etymologist and content creator, I always see controversial messages go more viral because they generate more engagement than a neutral perspective. But that means we all end up seeing this more extreme version of reality, and we're clearly starting to confuse that with actual reality. The same thing is currently happening with AI chatbots.
That ChatGPT is speaking
English to you, except it's not speaking English in the same way that the algorithm's not showing you reality. There are always distortions. He says delve at way higher rates than usual. OpenAI outsourced its training process to workers in Nigeria who do actually say delve more frequently. Over time, though, that little linguistic overrepresentation got reinforced into the model even more than its own dialects. Now that's affecting everybody's language. Multiple studies have found that since ChatGPT came out, people everywhere have been saying the word delve more in spontaneous spoken conversation. Essentially, we're subconsciously confusing the AI version of language with actual language. But that means that the real thing is ironically getting closer to the machine version of the thing. We're in a positive feedback loop with the AI representing reality, us thinking that's the real reality, and then regurgitating it so that the AI can be fed more of our data. You can also see this happening with the algorithm through words like hyperpop, which wasn't really part of our cultural lexicon until Spotify noticed an emerging cluster of similar users in their algorithm. As soon as they identified it and introduced a hyperpop playlist, however, the aesthetic was given a direction. Now people began to debate what did and did not qualify as hyperpop. The label and the playlist made the phenomenon more real by giving them something to identify with or against. And as more people identified with hyperpop, more musicians also started making hyperpop music. All the while, the cluster of similar listeners in the algorithm grew larger and larger, and Spotify kept pushing it more and more. These platforms want to amplify cultural trends to keep you on the app. But that means we also lose the distinction between a real trend and an artificially inflated trend. And yet this is how all fads now enter the mainstream. We start with a latent cultural desire, like maybe some people are interested in matcha or labubu or Dubai chocolate. The algorithm identifies this desire and pushes it to similar users, making the phenomenon more of a thing. But again, just like how ChatGPT misrepresented the word delve, the algorithm is probably misrepresenting reality. Now more businesses are making labubu content because they think that's the desire. More influencers are also making labubu trends because we have to tap into trends to go viral. And yet, the algorithm is only showing you the visually provocative items that work in the video format. TikTok has a limited idea of who you are as a user, and there's no way that matches up with your complex desires as a human being, so we provide input. And that's assuming that
ridiculous, only to see it go up 100 times. I don't know about you, but I definitely can feel the FOMO. FOMO, what is that? FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, fear of missing out is something that is very deep in the human mind. It goes back to the times of, as we lived in as hunters and gatherers, as in groups. Being part of the group ensured food, security, mating, and being outside was dangerous. And that's something we have taken on to us today also. If we're not part of the group, if we don't think alike, like the Jantelov is also kind of commending, well, then it's dangerous. So fear of missing out, FOMO, is something that is deeply in us, and something that can make us maybe come up to conclusions or do things we don't necessarily would do if we were just ourselves. And this is not something just maybe I, as a stupid person, or people that don't understand things do. Sir Isaac Newton is probably one of the most intelligent people that has ever lived. And in the 1700s, he actually were a victim of FOMO. So that was the time of the South Sea bubble. Newton invested in, saw his stock rise, earned a good money, got out, but saw his friends actually staying in and becoming even more rich. He FOMO'd in, invested more, actually a lot, and the bubble burst. He famously said afterwards, "I can calculate the movement of heavenly bodies, but not of the madness of men." So FOMO can make us do things we don't want, that can be against what we actually, what is good for us. And that is actually also very visible, the crowd dynamics that is a part of when we talk about what is called the smoked room experiment. This is an experiment from the 1968, where a group of applicants to a job are invited into a room. 8 of the 9 applicants are actors. They're told to stay seated, just work on their assignment, no matter what happens. One person is a real applicant. All of a sudden, while they do their application, smoke comes through the door. When there are other people, the other 8 actors are in the room, 90% of the time, people stay seated and do not report on the smoke, on the potential hazardous event that is unfolding. But when that person, the applicant, is alone, 75% of them got up and actually reported on the smoke. So crowd dynamics is something that changes the way we think. And that is what actually also is part of why we see financial bubbles developing. If we look at financial bubbles, then we saw one of the largest financial bubbles back in the 1630s, which was called the Tulip Mania. It was at a time where the tulip had been introduced from the Ottoman Empire, and for some reason, it became the center of attention. People started buying it, a market rose up, and people kept buying this tulip, or the tulips, not because of its utility, but because they thought they could sell it off the next day to earn money. The bubble burst at the peak of that hype, of that mania, and that's just to explain how mad it can become. One tulip bulb had the price of a house at that time. Then we can fast forward to the 1840s, Britain. And this was at a time where a fantastic technology came out. Steam engine, the locomotive, promised to change the world, and it certainly did. But the thing was, everybody thought that this is now changing ways also we'll earn money. And everybody FOMO'd in. Thousands of companies rose up, were established. People thought this is a cannot lose opportunity. And again, we saw how a bubble burst and a lot of people actually lost money. And this was still because even though there was a really fantastic technology that changed the world. We can then fast forward to the roaring 20s and try and imagine that was at the time where we had just seen the end of the First World War. We saw the electrification, we saw the technology of a car, we saw radio coming out. Try and imagine sitting there in your silent home, all of a sudden you can turn on the radio and you can hear people speaking to you. That was quite something. Turning on the light, getting yourself into the car and driving instead of having horses. We think we have seen technology, a leap in technology. Well, I can tell you that was special. And what happened then? Again, we saw people FOMOing into it, because this is, of course, a new world. This is a new time. Forget about the old world. And a massive bubble unfolded. Again, it burst, and as we probably know, as we heard from school, we saw the stock market crashing. We saw the last depression in the US and elsewhere because of this FOMO. And then we can fast forward to something we may be able to remember, at least some of us with a little more gray hair. So that was the dot-com bubble. And this was at a time where another new technology came out, just like the steam engine and the radio, and now we had the internet. And everybody again FOMO'd in. What's not to like? Fantastic opportunity. The world is new. New economy, they called it.
বড় এই আমি তো ফেসবুকে লাইভ চালাচ্ছি
And it's not no longer
তোমারটাতে
about
খালি
how
আমি
much you
একজনই মনে
earn.
করো যে
It's
কি
about
এটা
how much you
পাইছি
spend on
বড়
marketing.
তো ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে কি
And there were
আমার একজন
fantastic support
সাবস্ক্রাইবার
for
হলেও
this.
বিল আছে আমার জন্য বুঝছো
Wall Street were all behind it.
এখন
Media
ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে
were all
কি
behind it. There were media darlings like
এখানে তো আমার প্রতি
Webvan
মিনিটে বিল
and Pets.com. So the media were all over this. Everybody
Look at
was
this live.
praising this new fantastic and brave world. Did the internet change the world? Absolutely.
আমার তো গলা দিয়ে বেরোচ্ছে
But
না,
is that
বুঝছো?
the same as a promise
কিন্তু
that you cannot
এটা আমার
see
মনে করো মেইন ডাটা
that the market can
হ্যাঁ
crash or
এটার
that
উপরে মনে
people
করো
get
যে কি এখন গবেষণা করে আমার
exuberant?
প্রজেক্ট গুলো রান হবে মানে তাহলে কতগুলো যে হবে জানি তবে গাছগুলো যতগুলো হওয়ার কথা ছিল
So now I
ততগুলো
want to talk
মিল
about
হবে
Bitcoin
ইনশাআল্লাহ
because I think Bitcoin is in a
কারণ কাল সকাল থেকে
is the very
ওই ছেলেগুলো
definition
আমি কি
of
কয়েকটা
this
অবশ্যই
financial
ইয়ে
bubble we
নিয়ে
have at this
কি বলে
point. AI and crypto bubble.
ওই প্যাড হ্যাঁ
But before I do that,
একটু করে মিনিট
now
সময়
we talk
দেবো
about
হ্যাঁ
Jante. But I'm from Denmark. In Denmark, we have a famous,
অন্তত 3 ঘন্টা
very,
কমপ্লিট করলে
very
ভালো একটা
tales
ভালো বিষয়
teller,
হয় বাড়িতে
Hans Christian Andersen,
বলতেছি 3 ঘন্টা
who had the
কমপ্লিট
story or
করলে
told the story of the emperor's new clothes. And this is the story
কারণ
for
রাস্তার মধ্যে নেটওয়ার্কটা ভালো
the
হয়
ones who don't
এই
don't know it already, of course. This is about the
তুমি
emperor
কি আমার
who lived in
মানে
the
ওই লাইভ
in this king, his emperor.